Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Back from business, recently there was this issue that happened in Owo where not less than 19 persons were arrested by the police in connection with the killing of 4 persons in a clash in Ondo State. The newly deployed commissioner of police gave a hint and said that, you know, this is something that needed to be addressed, and of course a number of people have been arrested so far, 19 as I said, and investigations are still ongoing according to him. But then some kind of backstory perhaps into this conversation is why we brought Buchi to have a conversation with us. No, you only always have to see just the first name as Buchi, the gospel reggae musician, but this morning he is Buchi, the author, the writer, and a former university lecturer. He joins us from Uyo. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
This issue, this issue of rising cultism is something that must disturb you on a personal level.
Absolutely. Because it's been on for too long. And it's something that can be checked.
Well, give us a backstory. You've operated in the university before as a lecturer, and now more than ever before, we have a lot more students in schools. And now more than ever before, the level of despondency is quite high. And now also more than ever before, a level of hopelessness is high. Now more than ever before, young people pay a lot more attention to their mental health, and where they can't, they look for as many distractions as possible. So give us an idea, perhaps a backstory of why you think this is, how bad the situation is from what you can tell us.
Let me add one more. Now more than ever before, we have held up cultism to our children as something fruitful and rewarding, no longer something to be checked and weeded off. Yes? Because when you reward evil, you mock good. Our children look around and they see that those who have been cultists are being honored by society. Our children look around and they see that the deep state is thriving. The people who are really in authority are not necessarily the people sitting in the seats of power, but they report to other authorities, higher authorities that are unseen. And it is beautiful to control power from behind the scene. Make no mistakes about it. Nothing challenges money in glamour and appeal than power. So we've made it attractive to our children to seek alternative power. Yes? But anyways, this has been going on for a long time. Many years ago, the weapon of murder was poison. Cult groups poisoned members of other cult groups at parties, and then they graduated to daggers and swords, and then to small arms, berettas, and so on and so forth. And because this is a reflection of the larger society, heavy arms are in circulation, heavily in circulation. And so they are also available to the cultists, even in schools. And by the way, they are not just in the universities anymore. You find them in secondary schools, you find them in primary schools. And they're not just in schools anymore, they're now in motor parks. People on the streets now join cults. What used to be just confraternities, they join these groups because it's now accessible to them. When we leave this thing unchecked, it continues to grow. And I hope it doesn't grow to the point, if we're not there already, where you could say it's totally uncontrollable.
You know, the question, they seem to just be reverberating in the paper. What do you think drives young people to join confraternities, and how do you think we can break the cycle? I know you talked about the motivation that society inadvertently provides for it, but is that sufficient really? What is it that drives young people to confraternities, and how do you think we can break the cycle?
On the one hand, injustice. How did it start in the first place? It was a crusade against injustice. And as long as injustice thrives, as long as people see that they cannot get justice from the authority, constituted authority, from the police, or from the courts, they're going to find means to get justice for themselves. Injustice, and of course there is the adventure side of it. We've made this thing look appealing, and so young people who are going into school think that if they don't belong to a cult, they don't really belong. And so there are those who go into cultism because of adventure or misadventure, if you like. And I think I fall into that category. That's how I got in. Adventure. Soldiers of vainglory. We were already in the trenches before we knew what the war was about. You were a target of assassination, not because you did anything wrong necessarily, but just because you belonged to another group. You became a legitimate target of attack. So it's a culture of violence that has prevailed and been sustained, unfortunately, on campuses. Now even off campuses. We should not be seen to be helping the matter. First of all, I have suggested over and over that these groups be registered. Register the groups. Take away the cloak of darkness and secrecy from around them, which is their main weapon. It's an advantage to them when they're not known. So register the cults, register the confraternities, let them be known to the school authorities.
How do you think that will help? How do you think that will achieve anything? Because I think, just as you said, I mean, it's the fact that it is faceless and unknown and unseen that's giving it impetus, perhaps even the attraction over time. Do you see it happening that, they would come out and say we want to be registered?
Many of them are registered even in CAC by different names. Several of them are registered because they say there is something they represent. Anti-colonialism, anti-oppression. By different names, they have gotten registration. So let's register you. Begin to do that for which you have been registered. If you say you are anti-oppression, how are you going to fight oppression? If you say you are anti-injustice, how are you going to combat injustice? What are your means? Who are your members? Let's get to know them. Come out, have your say. What do you really intend to do? What are you about? This way, you're able to weed off the underground elements that fuel the violence.
Okay. Now,
if you say you want to clean,
yeah, go ahead, land on that point.
If you say you want to clean the streets and develop the hinterland, then go ahead and do that. And you say this is your name, we'll call you by that name. And you say you want to be identified with this color. We know you with that color. You register, we'll get to know your members. And the cloak of secrecy is taken away. And then there is also orientation. A lot of people who get into cultism do not really know the meaning of what they are getting into. They do not know. It's only when they are in there and they find out, like I said, You're already in the trenches before you know what the war is all about.
Well, just to give clarity to the person who is watching and listening to you right now, you wrote 2 books, at least that I know of, Ceasefire and My Weed and I. That many people will be wondering why it is you that is talking about this. You probably they probably need to know that you are talking from some level of experience. And you also said something critical, that it's for many of them it's a function of adventure. Is there a parenting deficit somewhere that leads to this kind of adventure?
Usually, yes. There would necessarily be for a child to go into school and seek to join the people that they have been warned against. There would be some kind of parenting deficit, yeah? But even when you could absolve the parents and say, you find children who are coming straight from Sunday school, but because of their sense of adventure, they want to be there. They want to get into it. They want to know what it's about. And so they get into the cause. Yes, there is. And like you said, to put it in perspective, yeah, I was there. I joined the cause out of a sense of adventure. And because I really I've always prided myself as one who stands against injustice in any form. And so these things drove me into needing more power to exercise my will against injustice. And so I joined the cult. But what I saw was totally different. I didn't see how, in any way, as a corporate organization, we did things to address injustice. I didn't. And the same for all the cults. They are all children of the same father, only by different mothers. The only difference between one and another is just that they by different names, identify with different colors.
All right. Well, my apologies. The Ondo State newly deployed Commissioner of Police, says an investigation has begun to determine the level of involvement of those who are arrested, and 19 persons who've been arrested in the cult clash, because we understand it was triggered by 2 opposing cult groups in the town. An attempt at reprisals heightened the spate of fighting. If you would give any counsel or guidance to the police or to the authorities, in what direction would you advise that they be looking so that we can nip this in the bud, or at least do something to make sure it doesn't get any worse?
They're going to find the same thing that previous investigations had found before now. They're going to find that the people involved are probably guilty as suspected, but connected to people in power. They're going to find that someone knows someone who matters a lot, and the children may not be in the cell or may not go to court and be tried properly and sentenced. It may never happen. Yes? They're going to find that these groups that were involved, the 2 primary groups that started the fight, have no record of membership, and so there is really nobody to talk to. They're going to find that the people involved may be too afraid, the victims may be too afraid to come out and identify any of those people as culprits. Because when you do, it continues. And that's when the victims are themselves innocent. A lot of times, cult violence does not involve innocent victims. A lot of times, the people who have been hit, the people who have been killed or injured, probably had shown some affiliation or affinity some other groups. Yes, if you investigate, you find that this is between groups and not spreading beyond to non-members. I'm looking for the words here to stay away from their parlance. They are hardly totally uninvolved. You will find that there is some involvement at some level of the victims themselves.
Now, just to be clear, something that you just said now, that they're going to find that influential people are involved. Are you saying that these cult groups are being powered by people with means from outside of the universities?
Categorically, yes. They are not different from the people who snatch boxes, ballot boxes. They are not different. They're not different from the people who do dirty jobs for dirty politicians. They're not different. It's the same people.
I mean, Mr. Buchi, you truly are a redemption story. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful stories of redemption that I have ever seen in my life. I've been a big fan of yours all my life, and watching you come out from that cultism and drug-related offenses at the time when you were younger, and then developing into this iconic musician, you know, who's impacted the lives of so many young people, myself included. You were a big influence on my life when I was in university as well. And it's truly that story of redemption that I want to be able to see replicated in these young people. There's so many articles right now. Look, the recruitment is no more universities. It's going down, primary school. And I think reading your books, as I was you know, getting older, the dynamics of recruitment into cultist groups during your time is different now. Most times now it's because a sense of belonging. They need a place to feed, for instance. They need protection in the neighborhood. You know, we're seeing that abroad, they'll call it gangs, you know, the way you would have gangs that kind of protect your interests in the neighborhood. It's getting lower and lower in Nigeria. In fact, I read an article where it said, young, ruthless, and armed with death. And that is the situation. Last year, in July of last year, the police in Rivers State actually released a statement saying that there was a recruitment call for a very popular cultist organization. There was a recruitment call around the nation, and they were telling parents to be a bit more careful. The Edo State Governor, Mondo Kwebolo, was also recently, about a month ago, concerned about recruitment into cults in Edo State and giving the riot act. Now, while all of these riot acts are being done and we see the arrests and the parades and all of that, it does feel like there's another essential element that really, in many ways, doesn't feel like it's in touch with the times that we're in. Do you find that in your understanding of cultism in today's Nigeria?
Let me get the last part. Do I find that?
I mean, do you find that there's an element that is not being addressed? We see the parade of the suspects, the arrest of the young cultists. Is there an element in today's Nigeria that is being missed out in the understanding of cultism in 2025?
First is information. What are the cults about? Where were the people arrested yesterday? Who brings them out? They are looking up to people. Yes, who are not on campus and who are not seen among them. They all do. And then there are arms in free circulation. There's a free circulation of arms in parts of this country that would shock you. If this thing is not checked, if it's not registered, and the members known, and the felt out, you're going to find that we just have a wing, a youth wing, violent youth wing of larger interests, political interests, mostly. Just, you're looking at youth wings that are about to metamorphose into, crystallize into accepted channels of, I'm looking for the right word here, so I do not give out, say more than I ought to say on national TV, yes? You're going to find that these young people who have been armed, who armed them, thank you very much. When you get the hold of the guns they have, you're going to find that they're not all guns anymore. The one that shatters the bullets into many pieces. You're going to find that some of them carry licensed guns. How many guns are in custody? Belong to who? We can stop this thing. I do know that we can end this violence. It is being enabled by larger interests. And that's the reason these young people are taking advantage of it and doing what they're doing. They know that they're not going to prison.
Yes, this is.
It's a very sad that should really make us pause and actually think about what we're doing about the future of our young people. I mean, I want to be able to talk to you with the economic situation in our country. Poverty is an excuse for everything now. And we're seeing violent groups rising up in local communities, young people. You see them during the day just strolling around, but the moment there's a loophole anywhere, they come out with their weapons. We were talking not too long ago, about scavengers. Most of these scavengers are young people, and they carry weapons with them, making up this community that in many ways you cannot be safe inside of these communities. I like the dimension that you brought where you talked about, look, we need to go to where the sponsors are, who's arming them. If you check that, you'll be shocked at where the sponsorship of this sort of thing is coming from. But when it comes to the poverty elements in society, how do we stop people from being lured into cultism, banditry, all kinds of vices on the promise that at least they would have a better life? Maybe not a better life, but at least they will eat. At least they will have something to eat and be able to give their mother something at some point. How do we work that dynamic in your experience?
I really do not think that cultism has provided with it is usually the need or the quest for more money, not money to survive, not money to eat. It's just like saying that prostitution is a means of solving a hunger problem. I think it goes beyond that. When you join a cult, they don't distribute money there. You know that you're going to be asked to do some things that may not even yield money immediately, but there will be someone who hands you money from time to time when there's a dirty job to be done. So how does this, let's call a spade, yes? We need to give some credit to the church and faith-based organizations. This is the only means I know that anybody has come out of cultism and drugs. They are the ones I see who have been successful in this thing. How did I come out? How have all the people I know come out? We can't keep shying away from the fact that the church is an integral part of nation building. We can't shy away from that. We cannot pretend that all the idea of the church is just a nuisance. They're just there to take money from people. No, there's a lot that the church is doing. Taking people away from the streets.
I do admit.
The one you remove from the street maybe the one that will be put in the Twitter tomorrow.
I'm very sure that many people. I'm very sure that many people will resonate with what you just said now, particularly seeing that indeed society has found its way, sort of regulated its own selves through faith-based organizations like the church, as you have mentioned it. One can only hope that there has been some value for this, the community leaders all over the country and the security agencies in particular to stem the tide of what you've just talked about. And I'm looking forward to someone saying, look, he's talked about us registering these organizations. Let's see the possibility of it, whether our laws support or do not support them. Buchi Atuonwu, musician, former university lecturer and author, my weed and I, as well as Ceasefire. Thank you so much for your time and perspectives this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, so many messages to take this morning, but I think we are totally out of time. We thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's hope that we'll be able to take one or two of them tomorrow morning. Now, I'm the one making the commitment, Kayla. Let's hope that it is something that we'll be able to do tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I know it's the middle of the week, and I'm going to join you in keeping that promise tomorrow. I'm Kayla Magwa. Enjoy the rest of your day.